All right, we are recording. So today is Tuesday, the 29th of November. I did want to tell you, first of all, that I did get a hold of Mr. Gudmested, and there will be an IT staff meeting on Thursday from 12 until about at least 12:30 and maybe 12:45. He wanted to talk to me about some other stuff. So we won't start up until 12:45 on Thursday, just so you know that, okay? All right, Friday will be a lab, as it says, and today, tomorrow, and Thursday, hopefully, we're going to continue on with this MERN Stack app. Again, what I'd like you to do by Monday is to basically just put out there what you've done, all right? I mean, we've dedicated now several class periods to this. All right. And I need, for lack of better word, proof that, that people are keeping up with me. Now, I do want you to know too, what I did today was I went in and looked at everybody's code. I said I was going to do it yesterday, but I did it this morning. And I tried to get your grades up to date. If you look and if you say your grade is not up to date, that means either I haven't received something from you, all right, or if I received it, I wasn't able to open it or whatever. Now, I do want to say one thing too, that, if people are turning in stuff late, you're going to get docked. And I think the people who this applies to, you already know that. But I mean, let's face it, on the last assignment that you had, all right, on the last assignment that you had, it was basically, I gave you the code and I asked you to pretty it up, for lack of better words. All right. And neither of you, but like one person, all they did was literally they added a gradient. They did nothing else. They didn't center anything. They didn't do anything. And, with one of them, they didn't even have, for the movie one that you were supposed to do, they didn't even have output. They just had headings. I'm sorry. So if I take off, as I said, I was expecting you to do something where you would be creating something that you would want to at least potentially put into your portfolio. All right. So when you get all your stuff back and you get your grades, and if you lost some points and you don't agree, you should always fight for every point you can. All right. I mean, you two right here who are listening live, you have nothing to worry about. All right. You both have got strong A's going, but I mean, anybody who wants to fight with me over points, that's totally fine. I have no problem with that. The only thing I'll ever tell you is that if you want me to go back and regrade something, I'll do it, but I regrade everything. So in other words, if you give me an assignment, you say, hey, can you just look at this? I'm not going to just look at that one part I took a little bit off on. I'm going to look at everything. And that's not so that I can say, well, yeah, I took off here and I'll give you those back, but now I'm going to take off here. No, I just want to make sure that I didn't screw up and miss anything else. That's all. All right. I did want to mention from yesterday with what we were working on, we were in this .env file here. All right. And probably shouldn't show you that. So let me just get rid of that for now. All right. But you should put a Mongo URI in here, and if you remember when we went out to Mongo, basically it came back and it gave us something like this, where it said MongoDB plus server, and then you have to put your username in there, and you have to put your password in there, and then over here you have to put the name of your table. All right, that's typically what you will set up in your .env file. And you'll put that in here. All right, so hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay. All right, so that was the first thing. I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. All right, so we went in yesterday, we created all those user models. I think we got done with everything we were doing on there, as far as I remember. And then we went into bcrypt. All right, we added the bcrypt JS, so we were able to do some hashing. And I did want to mention one thing about that. It's not that it's a big thing, all right, but I just wanted you to see this or mention this to you. So let me close this. No, I don't just want to save that. All right. Um, let's see. All right. So when we came in here yesterday, and this is something, maybe I should have mentioned at the beginning of the semester. I don't know. But when you look in here, you'll notice that all three of these have got a bcrypt and it says .#sync. All right. Well, typically with almost everything that you're going to find inside of the Node Package Manager, and really not just the Node Package Manager, but also the built-in Node modules, there will be a way that you can do something, and you can do it either asynchronously or synchronously. And I want to mention that because I'm not sure if there's a bcrypt hash or not in here. But a lot of times, if there's a bcrypt hash sync, there will also be like a bcrypt.hash. The difference between those is when you've got a sync like this operation has to finish before you can continue. And typically, you would want to make sure that you did that, because what we're doing now is we're taking passwords and we're hashing them. So the only reason I want to mention that is typically, like I said, when you are running something like this and you've got your choice of using something that syncs or something that does not sync, you're typically going to use the one that syncs. All right, just so you know that. All right, let's see. And I think we also went in yesterday and we did the Cedar stuff. I'm just trying to get my own bearings here. All right, as far as where we are. And I believe we did that as well. All right, now I had some errors, and I'm not going to lie to you, I forgot to fix them before class. So I will try to fix them after class, but that doesn't help much right now. All right, I'm getting a goofy error in the project we're doing in the C# class, and I worked on that for quite a while this morning. It's not an excuse. All right, I should never have forgotten to do it, but I did. All right, so let's go in and let's do this right now. Okay, what I'd like you to do is to go into your backend folder. All right, so go into your backend folder, and in the backend folder, you'll notice that what's in there right now basically is we've got what? We've got config, we've got data, we've got models, and we've got a couple regular, whatever you want to call them, just a couple files. All right, but we don't really have the true model view controller in here. And what I mean is, all right, the view actually is going to be more our React side. We've got the model in here, but we don't have any kind of controller. All right, we really, right now, the only routes that we have are in our server.js file, and they're right here. That's really, and in here, that's all we have right now. All right, so we don't want to keep those in here. We don't want to do those like that. So let's come in here in our back end. Let's come in and let's create a new folder, and we'll call the folder routes. All right, and again, it's not that you have to call it that, but it's more or less a name people typically, at least, typically use. All right, so inside of routes here, let's create a new file. Let me close this. So let's create a new file inside of routes, and let's just call it what it is. So we'll call it movieroutes.js. All right. Okay, and we'll start by importing Express from Express. All right, and we're going to go over what this means in just a bit, so don't worry about it right now. But it's called async handler from Express async handler. All right. And remember that when we are working with in here, we don't say const express equal express or whatever, or app equal express, I should say. We come in here and we say const router, and that's equal to express dot router. All right. And finally, we're going to import in our movie model. So import movie from, and that's going to be // and that's going to be under models / and that's going to be our movie model. And when we do that, let's just be sure. So we'll put a .js in there. I don't remember if we need it there or not. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this server.js, and these two routes that we put in, this route's nothing. This is just if we bring the server up, but these two things, I'm going to grab these two routes right now and I'm going to cut them. And then I'm going to go into my movie routes and I'm going to paste them in, but we'll make some changes. All right. But the point is, what we're doing now, at least what we are attempting to do, is to actually go in and put our routes into a route folder. Why? Because that makes sense. All right. Now, what we're going to do in here, we're going to do a couple different things. But first, let me move that over so you can see everything that's in here. All right. But let's talk for a second about this express async handler. And I don't ever like to use my own verbiage in here because I don't think it's that good. All right. So I'm going to go to npmjs.com and I'm going to bring it up in here. All right. And what it says is it is an error handler for asynchronous functions. What we want to be able to get to, is we want to be able to have the ability to basically have our own custom error messages in here. Because the way it is right now, we don't have that. And as you'll see, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but when you go in and you start testing in something like Postman, all right, the errors that come in there can either be A, verbose, in other words, there's a whole bunch of stuff you don't need, or B, just utterly confusing. So it's much nicer to be able to come in and create our own stuff, so to speak. Now, they do mention in here that when you do the npm install on this, you all know you can do an I. I don't think I ever used the -- save. Again, that's old. And for whatever reason, in the npm or the node package manager, a lot of the stuff that's in here doesn't get updated very often. But to my knowledge, anytime you look in there and you ever see a -- save, you don't ever need to use it. All right. So we're going to do the install basically like this. So I'm just going to copy that for right now so that I have it. But as it says, it's simple middleware for handling exceptions inside of async express routes and passing them to your express error handlers. So that's what we're going to start doing right now. All right. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into here and I'm going to view my terminal. And from my back end here, and I want to do this from the back end. So I don't, I'm in the front end now. I don't want to be there. So now I'm in the back end. All right. Basically, I'm at the root. So I'm going to put in that npm I express async handler just to add that. So I've got that available to me. Didn't take really any time at all to do. All right. Now, what we want to be able to do, and you're going to see how we're going to do this in just a moment, this is too much work. And what I mean by this is we want to go in and virtually go back into our server.js file in a minute, and we want to alias what you see in blue in there. What do I mean? I mean, I want us to be able to go here, and I want it to be smart enough that when we do that and we go there, that it's going to know that we want to show all of our movies. All right. So when we do this, and again, we're going to come in, and this is where we're going to start to use this async handler. All right. And it looks kind of weird as far as the syntax for this. Again, I didn't make it up, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in async handler. All right. Just like that. And then I have to put in another curly brace here, and I have to say async like that. And then I've got to close that curly brace in here. So again, what we are saying right here is what we're going to want to be able to do is asynchronously be able to handle our asynchronous errors. And that's what this is. It's an error handler. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but we've got an async here, and you may or may not remember, but one of the things I mentioned is when you use async, you use await with it. We don't have any await in there right now. All right, well, we're going to put one in right now. So we're going to say here const movies equal await movie dot find. And for now, we're just going to set it up as an empty object. All right. So that will help us show all movies. Well, not only do we want to show all movies, but as the other route here says, okay, we want to show a single movie as well. So let's change this. And this will now be just, as you can see in there, slash ID. All right. And we're going to put the same kind of thing in there. So I'm going to add the parenthesis already, and I'm just going to copy this line right here, and I'm going to put it in here. All right. So we're doing the same type of thing both times. All right. Now, where we've got here const movie equals, well, this movies dot find, we're not going to do it like this. All right, so I'm going to change this line. What we're constantly doing in here is tweaking the code to make it run better and better. All right, and a lot of times when you want to do something, there may be many, many, many ways of doing it. All right, and it's the old crawl, walk, run mentality, where we're going and we're learning more stuff that we hadn't talked about previously. But we're going to come in here and we're going to say right in here, const movie equals await movie dot find by ID req dot params dot ID. Now, by now, you should understand what the find by ID means, and you should understand the correlation between line 13 and line 14 here. That should make sense to you. All right. The problem is what this is going to return is it's either going to return a movie or it's not. In other words, if I came in there and put in the number 1 and there wasn't a movie with an ID of number 1, it's going to return an error. So what we want to do here is we want to say if movie, meaning that it did find something that it wanted to put in here, then we're going to say, we're going to move this up and say res.json movie, but we'll put an else in here as well. So again, if the movie doesn't exist, we'll do a res.status 404.json, and we'll put in our own message for now that'll say just movie not found. All right. So if we put in just a slash, it should give us everything. If we put in a slash with an ID, all right, then it should give us a movie with that ID. However, if we copied it in incorrectly, or if that movie has been deleted or whatever, that's what's going to be handled here. All right. Okay. And I'm going to do a file save all on here, just so I've got everything saved. Okay. And at the bottom, so, we've got this, let's see, this was our movie routes. Okay. And at the very bottom, we better export it because we want to make it available. Oops, you got to put your fingers on the right keys. So export default router. All right. And again, I'm to the point right now where I'm thinking with a lot of this stuff, it doesn't have to be explained anymore, that it just makes sense. And if it doesn't, that you're going to ask. I mean, I went back and like I said, I was grading some of the stuff today. All right. And, whether or not I put in most of the code or whether we did it together or whether you did it, we've done some pretty heavy stuff in here. I mean, even going back and looking at that weather app and looking at the movie app, there's a heck of a lot of junk in there. All right. And my hope is that at the end of the semester, all I've ever asked, when you do your course evaluations is that you be honest. But I hope you can appreciate the fact that there's a heck of a lot of stuff that we've covered in here and we're not done yet. I have this running conversation with Mr. Gudmested because what Mr. Smith did was every time he introduced a new topic, he went out and found a bunch of stuff on Google for it, which is okay. And you can oftentimes get really up-to-date stuff when you go out to Google. But I told him I thought we needed a book. He disagreed. All right, well, you can see who won. All right, but I am right now, to my knowledge, I am scheduled to be teaching this class, the one you're in right now, I think, in summer. I could be wrong, but I believe I am. And I'm going to ask him if I can find a book, if we can use the book. All right, it might be too late to even do that. I don't know. But what I think this course needs more than anything else is not me doing a project like this where I'm piecing together, a piece from part A and a piece from part B, but it needs a book with good explanations and a running project throughout the book. The only reason I'm telling you that is if you don't agree with me, that's fine. That's your right. But if you do agree with me, please remember that at the end of the semester, you do your course evaluation, and it's threefold. It's on the course, and did it meet all of its expectations? It's on the instructor, and did he or she meet all of your expectations? And it's on the book. Well, there isn't a book. So if you think there should be a book, please put that in there. If you're cool with there not being a book, just don't say anything. That's all I tell you. Okay. So I want to go back to server.js. Okay, and I'm going to remove from here all of these. I'm even going to get rid of this one, this app.get that's here, this hello from backend. All right, I don't know if I can keep that or not keep it. It doesn't really matter. All right, but I wanted to do that. And what else do I want to do? Well, one of the first things I want to do is I want to come up here and I want to import my movie routes from /routes/movie routes. Remember, we need the .js. All right. So that's the first thing. I wanted to put that in there. All right. We shouldn't need this line anymore because remember, hopefully you remember, I'm just going to comment it out just in case we end up needing it again. But that line is the line that we're using that's grabbing the data. That line is grabbing the data that's in that file called movies.js that we hard coded in as an array of JSON objects. Well, now we're going to be attempting to get that information from our database. All right. So like I said, I'm just going to try to, try to see if I can comment that out. Jeez Louise. All right. So that's first thing. Now, the other thing that we want to make sure that we do in here, and I don't know if it matters when we do it in here. This is not, sure as heck, not a big file. All right, but I'm going to put it right underneath the .env.config. And that is, all right, we want to say app.use /API/movies movie routes. And this is doing exactly what I talked about before with you. All right. In other words, for lack of better wordage, we could say that in here, what we're really doing is we are creating the, I better spell movies right, huh? What we are doing is we are creating, geez Louise, we are creating an alias, and we are saying, hey, anytime we just say slash, replace it with that. All right. So that's the route that we're using to get to our movies. All right. Now, if you look in here, and I don't normally do this, and believe me, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time, but I want us to watch this thing. Okay. You may have watched it already. My guess is out of all the people in the class, if anybody's watched it, it would be you two. And my guess also would be nobody else did. All right. So I don't normally do this because when I make a video within a video, they can get really, really big size wise. But I am going to come in here, and since I am taping, so it'll be in here. But for a while at least, I want us to go through this video. All right. All right, I think that's enough. And again, there's a couple reasons that I went through that. One of them is just to show you everything that's in there. But the other thing, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this before, but and this is, one of the places where I do not shine here. But if we go out to GitHub, so if I just go out to github.com and I find my repository. So I'm going to look for my MERN app, the one we've been working on, and I come in here. All right, that you can go in when you create these things, that there's ways that you can go in and provide documentation, not just a README file. All right. But one of the things, hopefully you've noticed when we go out here, like, here for the this example we just looked at for the express handler, and they've got usage and they've got some other stuff. I'm hoping that you guys that what I'm about to say, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, in that I want you to do this kind of thing for your project. In other words, what I'm hoping we're going to be able to do is even put some examples in here of this working or of this not working. The more stuff that you can provide in a project that you're creating from scratch, the more it looks like yours. And the more it's showing, what the heck it's supposed to be doing. And again, there is at least a chance that I don't like this, but when you go in and apply for a job, you may end up talking to an HR or human resource person. Believe me, that's the last person in the company you want to talk to. And just because of the fact that by and large, they know nothing about IT. You want to talk to an IT manager. But that said, you could be interviewing with a half dozen people, one or two of whom might be IT people, and the rest who might not be. And if you go in there and you provide internal documentation in your programmatic examples, all right, it's going to look like you know what you're doing. It's going to look very professional. All right, I'll just leave it at that. But I thought, again, what I was hoping to do now was to go into Postman, but since I didn't fix those errors, I can't do that. So we're just going to go on. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I realize I'm starting to get a lot of errors here. I'm going to have to try to clean up everything as soon as I possibly can. And I promise you, that's what I'm going to do at the end of class today. All right. Okay. So what I want us to do then is I want us to close this. All right. We just fixed up, so to speak, our server.js. Yeah, I want to save that. And we just added our movie routes. Yes, I want to save that. All right. But there's another thing that I want us to be able to do. And that is, I want us to be able to come in here, and when we go and run our program under Postman and something doesn't work, because it's going to happen sooner or later. All right. I want us to be able to come in here and have our own customized error messages. So in order to do that, I want us to still be in the back end like we have been. We're going to add yet another folder in here. And the folder we're going to add is going to be called middleware. All right. And in this folder, we're going to add a new file, and we're going to call it error middleware.js. Now, I'm not going to, I'm not that brazen that I'm going to say, man, I've done a great job in going through this with you. But one thing I've tried to do is I've tried to come up and make sure that, we've got a heck of a lot of files in here already, and we're going to be adding more. But I'm trying to put stuff into folders that make sense. I'm trying to name those folders and give them a decent name. I'm trying to take the files that are going in those folders and give them a decent name. All right. So when you think about it, there's really two cases. When we come in here and we're going to try to do some testing. Two things that can happen. Either we're going to work and something is not going to be found. We put in a wrong file name or whatever, or there'll actually be an error in it. All right. So we're going to define a couple things in here where we're going to put in our own middleware. All right. And if you say, I don't know what you mean, just bear with me for a second because I think you'll understand right away. And when we get all done, I'm just going to move down to the bottom here. When we get all done, we're going to export these. And we're going to export these as two different JSON objects, one that we'll call not found and the other one that we'll call error handler. All right, so that's at the bottom. And, we could have said export before each one. Remember, when you're doing exporting like this, you can export, when you do this, you can export up here or you can export down at the bottom. All right, so let's write these. So the first one will be not found. All right, and I tried to do my own little bit of coming in here and trying to pretty it up, so to speak. My guess is when I put this in, it's going to look a certain way. When I save it, it's going to look a little bit more jumbled up on the screen. But for now, I want you to be able to see what we're doing. So we're going to put in here an app.use. When you write your own middleware, not only do you have your request and your response, but you've got next. We may or may not have talked about this already. And basically what next does is it sends, for lack of better words, kind of a subliminal signal to the system, and I forgot my curlies, that we are ready to move on. All right. So we've got here our app.use, we've got our request, we've got our response, and we've got our next. And then inside of the curly braces here, what would be nice, all right, is if we gave the user a little bit of information. Okay, so what do I mean? Well, we're going to put in here const error equal new error, and we'll say not found. All right. And what that's going to do is it's going to say, okay, with our original URL, what that's going to end up doing is it's going to say the file's not found, but it's going to let us know what it is we put in there that wasn't found. And we're going to do a res.status, and we're going to give it a 404. All right. Then to get out, we're going to type in next, and we're going to pass along that error. So again, we are creating our own custom middleware here. All right. And what we are telling the system is, if for some reason we put in a file that doesn't exist, we want this to come up to say not found with that, and then give us a 404, which is a file not found error. But we don't want any of that other junk that typically we're seeing in Postman when we do that. All right, so that's the first one. Let's do another one here, and then we'll take a break. All right, so this will be our error handler. And again, it'll be an app.use. There'll be error, all right, because it's going to be an error. That's what the ERR is. There'll be request, there'll be response, and there'll be next. All right. Now, when this comes up, we don't know for certain, we don't know what kind of error there's going to be. Now, you may or may not remember this. I'm not going to bring it up right now, okay? But you may or may not remember that there's 200 level errors, there's 300 level errors, there's 400 level errors, and there's 500 level errors. All right. There's also 100s. Now, typically, like the 200s are not really errors, they're success codes. The 100s are typically more informational. All right. And the 400s and the 500s are the ones you typically care about. The 400 errors are errors on your end. The 500 errors are errors on the server end, which means that there's really nothing you can do about them. but you still want to let the user know when there are different kinds of errors. All right. So we're only going to put in about 7 or 8 lines here. Take a bit, it's a bit of typing, but like I said, then we'll take a break. And after that, we'll come in and see if we can, put this into our server.js file. So we'll be able to handle that. All right. In fact, you know what? It is 1 o'clock. Let's just take 10 minutes right now. All right. It looks like it's about to turn to 1 o'clock. So let's come back at 1:10 and we'll do this as soon as we come back. All right. All right, sorry about that. I had a phone call too. So, okay. All right, so let's do this error handler. Excuse me. Let's see. I think I'm missing a paren here. So I will have one here as well. There we go. All right. Oops. All right. About 3 or 4 more lines here. Then we'll go over all of it. Hmm. Hmm. All right, so let's take a minute and break this down. All right. I went over the other one, but just so you do know, with the other one, this again is going to handle if we don't find the file. So if we're asking for something that doesn't exist. All right. So that's going to basically throw a new error right here. Okay. And it's going to say that it's not found. Technically, it is an error, but it's an error on our part. It's not technically like a system error or anything like that. So this should give us the URL that we tried to put in there that didn't work. We're going to send a 404 status, which is file not found, and then we're going to call next to basically get the heck out of there. All right, so that's for the not found. Then for the error handler, a little bit confusing here, or at least possibly it's confusing. But what we're saying here is if it's a 200 error, just basically treat it as though it's 500. All right, because it's some kind of a system error. And if it's not going to be a 200, it's going to be some kind of a 400. So we'll just handle it ourselves. All right. And then we're going to send the status back. And again, it's either going to be this, or if it was a 200, it's going to be this. So in other words, technically what we're saying is it's something we have no control over, or it's probably something we have some control over, for lack of better words. All right. And we're wrapping up everything here into a JSON object. So this is the error message. All right. This is kind of neat because what this is going to do is it's going to show us the program stack. But We only want it to show us the program stack if we're in development mode. If we're in production mode, of course, we wouldn't want to show this, because if you're in production mode, this is out on the internet and this is somebody running the program. And again, conceivably, it could be somebody who could at least possibly do bad things. All right. So what we're saying right here is, again, check to see, this is our node environment. If we're in production mode, don't do anything as far as showing of this information. Otherwise, show this error stack, okay? Which again, the stack basically is a series of every function that has been called to that point. I don't think I still have it out there, but I had an example of it this morning when I was doing some work in the C# class, but I think I removed it. Let's see. So it'd be something that would kind of at least, let's see, would look more like this. I mean, there's a lot of information there, but you can dig through it. It's not going to look exactly like this. It's going to look more probably like this, where you're going to have a lot of these, because it's going to say what routine was called by what routine that was called by what routine, etc. And you've seen this kind of thing, at least I believe you have before. And, you know, I've always said that when you get into a situation like that, what you have to do is you have to look for your routines. In other words, if it's a system routine, that's not where the error is. All right. More than 99 times out of 100, it's going to be in your code, but you have to see what caused that to happen. All right. And then again, at the very bottom, as we said, we came down here. I can get rid of some of these now. And we exported those. Now I'm looking here. Let's see. It says the parser expected to find a curly. So it looks like I'm missing a curly brace. So I want to find that. So here's that. Yeah, I'm thinking, let's see. I'm wondering if I'm missing one of each of these here. And I thought I removed them, but I think I might need them. All right. Now it's saying a curly was expected. So there's someplace in here. Let's see. That one here, now it looks like it's with that one. Well, then I wouldn't need these. There's something missing here. So let's see. So I'm going to have to look through this because, like I said, it's right now it's showing, unless one of you sees. Let's see. Those two go together. There's a beginning curly. There's a beginning curly. There's an ending curly. There's an ending curly. That's yellow. So that's yellow. I'm looking, it looks to me like it should match, but it's not. I'm wondering if it's because I've got this there. Nope, that wasn't it. So let's see. And it says comma expected. Okay. But now it's telling me it's expecting a curly in here someplace, and I'm not sure where. I'll have to go back and run through this. But the idea is, hopefully, at least when we get done with this and we reconvene tomorrow, that I'll have these errors flushed out and you'll be able to run this thing on Postman and you'll see that you're going to be getting in your own errors. All right. But for now, at least, I'm just going to do a file save all. And I'm going to leave that up so I don't forget about it. But I want to go back into my server.js file. And the reason I want to go back into the server.js file is someplace near the top here. I want to import, and I want to import what I just did. So the not found and the error handler. And it's kind of nice that it's the IntelliSense kicked in. So from /middleware/error middleware.js. Okay. All right. Now we came in here before and we put in our app.use. This was for our routes. But since it's middleware and since it's our own middleware, we can now come in here, we can say app.use not found. And app.use error handler. That is not calling them. It is making them available to the program. All right. And one more thing that we're going to do here, and that is, well, first let's save this. And I'm going to go back to my movie route that we did before this movie routes.js file. And this code that's right here, before we were just, we were just throwing that JSON error like that. And again, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but now we're taking control. So we're going to come in here and say throw new error. All right, and we're calling our own stuff. I don't think, let's see, we don't need a message in here because it's not really JSON. So we can just do it like this and like this. There. All right. So again, I know I said this to you before, but I'm going to keep saying it. And that is what we're doing here. We're just constantly refining and refining and refining. All right. Now, this project that we're working on right now, what we're almost ready to do is to add we've got our product stuff in there. But if you, hopefully you realize that when you look in here and when we go out to front end and we go to, where are we? Source, and we go to screens, we've got two screens right now. We've got our home screen, all right? And our home screen is, basically it's going to show us, all of our products or whatever it is. We've looked at that before. We've got a movie screen. All right, but we're going to need some kind of an order screen in here as well. All right, we have to let the user be able to see the products, but also to be able to order the products. All right, so we're going to need an order screen and or a product screen, something like that. All right. Now, I had planned on doing more stuff today. The problem is with these errors, I can't do what I want us to do. All right. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to call it a period. And sorry if that ticks you off. I'm not trying to, but I want to fix these errors. So tomorrow we can start by going over this stuff in Postman, and then we can go on from there. All right. But, you can already see there's errors in here, etc. So it's letting me know that I have some errors. There's still that error in my error middleware. And when I come in, I'm getting some authentication errors when I'm running this. I'm getting about 4 or 5 different errors from 4 or 5 different files. So I can't go on and show you anymore right now. All right. And I'm sorry about that. But what I want us to be able to do is bring the product stuff in here, like set up our products. All right. And be able to start creating some orders. Now, in order to do that, no pun intended, we'll have to also talk about authorization. We've looked a little bit at authorization before, all right, but we're going to look at it in a little bit more depth and breadth of coverage because there's going to be authorization from both ends. In other words, there'll be client-side authorization, which says that you need to technically be logged in before you can order something. All right. Either you have to be logged in or when you go to buy something, you're going to have to be able to prove who you are. And you know this from if you buy something on Amazon, all right, that you'll go basically into an order page where you'll have to provide your credit information. All right. But there will also have to be authentication on the server side. And we talked about this before. If you remember, when we set up the users, we set up that is admin equal to true for one of our users. That is the only user right now who will be able to go in and make changes to any of these screens, to either add products, remove products, modify products, add users, delete users, modify users, etc. The problem with this is with what I've been working with, and I think I told you this yesterday, I'm trying to do a bunch of rewrite because they're using a package called Redux. All right. And I've got this thing that I've been working on. It works, but it doesn't work unless you use Redux. And if we use Redux, that's going to mean that I'm going to have to spend some time going over that with you. The reason I'm telling you that is I'm going to be working on this tonight. And if I can't get any further, you can expect that by tomorrow morning, you're going to have a couple articles that I'm just going to ask that you at least glance through, and then we'll go over what this Redux is all about tomorrow. And if I can get it to work, pulling the Redux stuff out, then that's all the better. That's just one less thing we have to worry about. So the plan tomorrow is to like I said, go more on the front end because we've been doing a lot of back end stuff lately, but we've got to test and make sure all of our stuff on the back end is up and working. And we're not able to do that right now because of the other errors or some of the errors that I've shown you that I've got in the program right now. All right. So that's where we stand. Okay. And again, last thing, and I know I've already said this. I said it at the beginning of the class, and that is by Sunday, I want everybody who's in this class, all of you, to turn in something to me to show me that you have been doing code alongs with me. All right. Even if it's incomplete, even if it has errors in it. All right. So I'm going to have to make sure by Thursday, whatever we've done by then is as error-free as possible, ideally with no errors in it. All right. So there will be lecture tomorrow. There will be lecture on Thursday. And remember, Thursday, we will not start until 12:45. All right. So I will see you tomorrow at 12:05. Have a good rest of the day.